Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, June 1st. It's been a bit since I've had a Tuesday, which being movie day, where I have to work tomorrow. But that's alright, because it means I have off on the weekend. So I'll get to a movie here, but I'm like, okay, well, I want to do food, figure out some things, and for a bit now, I'm like, okay, I need to go get groceries, but I'm kind of holding off a little bit on that because I'm trying to think of a few things I can maybe get to have some variety, because I've mostly been making pasta. Lots and lots of pasta, which I love pasta, but I mean, it's a lot. And I'm like, okay, let's think of some things. But I'm also kind of looking at what I have as I'm doing it and finding maybe some things that I can make with what I already have. So, thinking of that, I have defrosted some ground beef, pulled out some chili seasoning, which says, to use either 2 of the little cans of tomato sauce or a can of diced tomatoes, and I'm like, what about both? 1 can of each. And it says, kidney beans, but I'm like, I think I should add some garbanzo beans. You see, I kind of have an idea of the way that I made chili last time I made chili, which was with that same little seasoning packet, and I just kind of sort of followed the recipe, but I also ignored parts because I didn't put any meat in it. Instead, I just added some extra stuff. But I'm going to put meat in it this time because last time I made that, I was not in as good a financial position as I am right now. But I am in a little bit of a better position, so I can afford to have some meat in my dinner. And I like that. So I'm gonna make some chili. Stop. At last. Well, it doesn't take long at all to make chili. I mean, I know I could do it like in a slow cooker method that takes forever, but I don't. So it's done in like 15 or 20 minutes. Yeah, so I got chili, and that'll be food today, and probably at least the next couple of days. So that'll be nice, something a little different. And it's movie day. What do I want to watch? Gee, I have no idea what movie I'm watching today. It's been a bit since I've been into James Bond, though. I believe our next one is You Only Live Twice, which I don't have separately from the set, which means I didn't have before this set, which means that I have watched it both less frequently, and it has been a longer time ago, and the ones on there I haven't seen in 10 plus years, probably, so it's been longer than that, assuming I've seen it. I'm assuming that all the earlier ones that I have seen at some point, but that is an assumption. But like, I can't place the storyline for this one, so should be interesting. Watch You Only Live Twice. And I would give 007, You Only Live Twice, 7.6 out of 10. It's good. It's pretty good. I definitely have seen it. There are parts that I recall quite well. More towards the end, once the action picks up. There's also large parts of it I don't remember at all. Now, because I only have that in the Blu-ray set that has like no details on the box, I looked up online a document that has the supposed back of box kind of descriptions for the 007 movies. So You Only Live Twice. After a mysterious rocket ship seizes manned space missions from Earth's orbit, suspicions mount and the world's superpowers are hurled towards the brink of war. Their only hope rests with James Bond, Agent 007, races to stop the space jackings. True mastermind Ernest Starvo Blofeld, chief of the evil Spectre organization. Blofeld is bent on instigating global warfare from his massive headquarters nested in an inactive volcano located in a Japanese island. As the countdown begins, Bond joins forces with the gorgeous Japanese agent Kissy Suzuki and scores of ninja warriors to mount a daring raid on Blofeld's lair and prevent it is like a different form of the word, like calamity. Calamitous world war. I don't know if I've ever heard calamity turned into, what would that be? Adjective. It's like, I know calamity, but I've never heard it made into an adjective. But they did it. Yeah. That's what happened. You see Blofeld. And they make him look real creepy. But, of all things, something I have to point out. Something that blew my mind. You see, you start the movie and you get the things, and of course the idea is that they're... you only live twice, because the movie begins with some events, and it seems that James Bond has been killed. Really, it's a ploy. They're publicizing his death so that he can go deeper undercover. Ending near the end, you know, when Blofeld discovers he's really alive still. He's like, well, you only live twice. Roll credits. Anyways, so at that beginning, they do that, and he's dead. Oh no. Let's go into our opening titles. You see our movie name, and Sean Connery, Ian Fleming's, You Only Live Twice, etc., etc. Given some credits. Screenwriter Roald Dahl. It cannot be the same, but it is. It is the same Roald Dahl. Matilda. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That Roald Dahl wrote the screenplay for this movie. I saw that name and I know it instantly because he wrote a couple of good books that movies and plays are based off of that I like. But even more so, I'm very familiar because in my New Divines campaign that I run about monthly, although I missed last month scheduling, one of my buddies is playing a character inspired by Willy Wonka. So when I built the whole country that he's from, I did inspiration from Roald Dahl and his stories. So I looked up a bunch of stuff earlier in the year about him to make that area, and so I see his name and I'm like... And I'd missed that when going through all that. That was an interesting thing to spot. I was like, okay. I see Roald Dahl and I think children's author. Not James Bond screenwriter. He did both. It was good. Then we had like some space stuff. When I think of James Bond with space stuff, I definitely think of Roger Moore. But this was a lot more subtle, more, grounded, well done, we can even say. It's nice. Throughout Japan, and most of the majority of the plot takes place, which is just one of the things that going through these one after another is so cool. Is just getting to see around the world, just different places, because they travel and they show things off, and It's beautiful. Now, there is a gripe. There is a complaint that I have. There are frequent points where someone is watching a screen of something happening. And what is going on the screen that they are watching is the same shot that was shot for the audience to watch. From a camera that cannot exist. Where it's watching something happening from like a bird's eye view when having another camera there at that bird's eye view would spoil the whole thing. It could not be there. And they do it more than once. It is very distracting when it happens. I'm like, who's recording that? And now maybe that's just me and my knowledge of filmmaking. I remember when I went to film school, they're like, we're going to ruin movies for you because you're always going to think of that kind of thing. And for the most part, they were wrong. But maybe that is a little point where it comes in and my brain notices because of my knowledge of filmmaking. Maybe in that aspect it is. I don't know. Limited gadgets, but well done and interesting. Again, Blofeld looks so creepy in this. It looks like he has a monocle because of like a weird thing around his eye. Yeah. Lots of action. Ninjas. I'm like, part of me is like, is this where the ninja... Because like, growing up as a kid, ninjas used to be very popular. And part of me is all like, of course, from James... But I mean, like, this came out so long before I was a kid. Like, this had to be like, ninjas were popular at this point from this. And then they probably lost popularity for a long time and eventually came back into popularity by the time I was a kid. Because, you only have 1967. I wasn't exactly around in 1967. Hate to break it to you. I didn't exist for another 20 years. But there were ninjas. And the ninjas looked kind of goofy at times, but seeing them just swarming the base, it was an amazing shot. And I know, while we're not done with Sean Connery, the next time that we step into James Bond, we are taking a moment away from Sean Connery. Which means we're almost done with him. He's good. I know, next time will be George Lazenby. Who I don't have that movie. It's been a longer time since I've seen it, but I do have faint recollections of liking some aspects. I don't know if I liked his role as the character, but I definitely remember liking parts of that story. Then there's Roger Moore, not a big fan. I believe after that we get Timothy Dalton, who's like the best James Bond. I won't argue if you want to say it's Sean Connery. It's hard to decide. From there, Pierce Brosnan, who was James Bond to me as a kid. Like, when I was growing up, Pierce Brosnan was James Bond. Then we go to Daniel Craig, who I know for a fact that once we get to Daniel Craig, there are movies that I have not seen. I have not seen Casino Royale. It was actually because that was Daniel Craig's first one. And I remember seeing the trailers and I'm like, that's not James Bond. I was upset with him, didn't give it a shot. Quantum of Solace I own. And it was very confusing. I didn't much care for it. But I watched it quite a bit after it came out. Still not sure if I liked this guy's James Bond. Skyfall, I don't own, but I had a friend that did, I think. I don't know. I watched it, like, over like a month. I watched it like 4 times. I loved Skyfall. I think that's the most recent one I've seen. I think there's one more in the set after that. But we're moving towards the period where we move on from Sean Connery. That'd be sad. Movies are still great. Now, because I don't have this movie, this Blu-ray has a bunch of bonus features that I have never seen. So over the next week, I'm gonna have to try and like watch those so that it can be put away as normal. But that'd be fun. It's been a while since I've sat and watched just commentaries and bonus features and all that. Of course, chili was good. It's not all that late, but I'm gonna probably watch at least part of a commentary on it. Call it an evening. Thank you for joining me, and joining me as my journey continues.